We are very sorry to have caused them much anxiety. We had wanted to give them better protection, and this required a change in our policy involving the use of NRIC numbers because the current situation leaves us vulnerable.
This was a mistake on ACRA's part, and I apologize for this. Our oversight has caused anxiety and confusion to the public.
And I want to assure everyone that we do not take these things lightly. We're committed to take the necessary actions to rectify the situation responsibly.
Over time, NRIC numbers have increasingly come to be used as more than just an identifier. Some organizations have started depending on a person producing his full NRIC number as proof that the person is who he or she claims to be. He or she is then granted access to privileged information or services. That is, the NRIC number has also become an authenticator. This is not a good idea. Since our NRIC numbers are known to some other people, someone unauthorized may misuse our NRIC number to get access. We therefore had to change the status quo to move away from the NRIC number as an authenticator and from using masked NRIC numbers for that false sense of security.
To be clear, ACRA does not have every citizen's information. If you're not involved in running an entity registered with ACRA, your information will not be collected or shared by ACRA. But if you had made a filing with ACRA to become a company director or already are a company director, then your information is collected and made publicly available. This is because, as a director, you're a public representative of a company, and there will be public interest in you and the company you represent, be it from investors, customers, suppliers, or other business partners. Let me now touch on our plans going forward. The People Search function remains useful and necessary to support legitimate business needs. Since the function was disabled last Friday, we have received queries on when it would be resumed. Taking into consideration users' needs and the public's concerns, we will introduce a revised People Search function next week. But the search results will not show any NRIC number, masked or unmasked.
It arose because of ACRA's misunderstanding of the circular that we were talking about. The circular mentioned requiring government agencies to cease any planned use or masked NRIC numbers in new business processes and services. ACRA had interpreted the requirement to cease the use of masked NRIC numbers as needing to unmask the numbers in our new BizFile portal. ACRA sought to clarify with MDDI what was the scope and the implementation timeline of this new requirement, but communications between the two agencies were not sufficiently clear, leading to ACRA's mistaken thinking that we were required to unmask the NRIC numbers in the new BizFile portal that was being implemented in November, December.
These are not concepts that are so easily explained to people. There are many different dimensions. What is the difference between not using masked numbers versus unmasking versus using other identifiers? What is the difference between using NRIC numbers or any other identifier to authenticate a person? And I think we have to keep in mind that in seeking to share more with the public, in fact, we had to first establish a basic understanding of where the public was. So the process of going through a communications exercise itself is non-trivial, which means that you've got to plan it, and you've also got to find the right time to do so and not alarm people unnecessarily. So the question was that, when do we start the communications exercise? And to start the communications exercise, it should be in relation to the readiness of the preparation. And in this case, we were not prepared. We were thinking about it, but we had not assembled the whole plan. Keep in mind that continuing to use masked NRIC number within government would also run the risk of giving ourselves this false sense of security. So we decided that it was better to move ahead with making the change within government whilst we stood up the plan for communicating to the public. The risk that we now face when masking gives us a false sense of security, the risk that we now face that NRIC numbers are being used for passwords and authentication. These are the risks that we have to point out through public education, raise people's awareness. The other thing that we need to cover in public education is that how do you better protect yourself? And how you better protect yourself goes back to Min Indrani's reminder. You can stop using your NRIC number as a password. We also need to educate the public on what is the new way of thinking about the NRIC number and return it to its original purpose as a unique identifier. We first have to tell people about the risks. Second, we need to go through the process of changing out our mindsets and practices. And only then, I think we are ready for the new way of thinking. So it goes back to why you never communicate first, because actually it's quite involved. This timeline has become very compressed as a result. We had thought that we could stage it out properly, but clearly, given people's anxiety, we've got to compress the timeline and do it much earlier.